Hey guys, today we're going over the top 10 biggest beatdowns in One Piece. Number 4 and number 1 might surprise you. Very transparent retention bait, but it is what it is. Stay tuned for those. In 10th place, we have Luffy versus Aokiji. Now, this was just after the Straw Hats got done on Skypiea. The first arc that Robin, their newest crew member, had joined them on, and the arc that they grew close on. And Aokiji shows up and basically badmouths Robin and tells them that she's going to be more of a burden than the Straw Hats can handle. Obviously, Luffy doesn't take too kindly to that and immediately challenges Aokiji, because this fight with Aokiji is the perfect textbook example of the difficulties that Luffy had in the beginning of the series with Logia Devil Fruit users. He didn't really have a way to counter them unless there was a very specific weakness, like with Crocodile and Water. Now, Aokiji had just gotten done freezing Robin, and Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro all charge in together and attack him. He freezes Zoro and Sanji's arm and leg, takes them out of commission, and Luffy tells them all to leave and take care of Robin while he handles Aokiji. And they willingly leave, follow Luffy's order, all the while knowing that, Luffy was just talking a big game here. They don't think that Luffy is going to be able to beat this threat. This is the first Navy Admiral that they've encountered, and they're seeing just the sheer scope of his power. You guys have to remember, before this fight even started, we see Aokiji freeze an entire ocean. He sticks his hand in the water, he goes Ice Age, and freezes absolutely everything in sight. It was a crazy feat of power, and it just put in perspective the differences between Aokiji's strength and the Straw Hat strength. And he shows that in his fight with Luffy, where Luffy can't even get any attacks off because Aokiji just shatters into ice, and then he hugs Luffy like he did with Robin. Ice time, Luffy gets frozen and he loses. One of the few defeats that he had had up until that time. But let's move it on. In 9th place, we have Shanks versus Eustace Captain Kidd. Now, this placement was probably the origins of this video. I just put out a character analysis video on Kidd. I'll chuck that up on the screen. And in it, I spoke about potentially doing a beatdown video, thanks to the scene that we get with Shanks and Kidd on Elbath. Kidd he's brimming with confidence and brimming with arrogance of the fact that he's just got done helping take out an emperor. He's thinking nothing can touch him, nothing can go wrong, and he blatantly challenges Shanks. And he does this by using his damned punk to draw in all the ships on the coast, all of Shanks' allies, and he planned on blowing them all up with his railgun. He doesn't even get to do that though, because Shanks sees all this through observation haki, sees what Kidd's about to do, and he's like, nah mate, you're not doing this to my allies, my fleet. So he pulls out his sword Griffin, he flies over the ocean, flies straight up to Kidd, uses Divine Departure. Kidd can't even put up a defense. Killer, his first mate, gets in the way, and Shanks cuts them both down. And their current status is unknown at this moment. Whether or not he's died or whether or not he's survived, we discussed that in his character analysis video. I suggest go watching that. But there was no deep story involved here. There was no outside motivations. It was literally just Shanks using one move and taking out a man worth 3 billion berries. Nothing fancy, just pure slaughter. In 7th place, though, we have more of a story aspect to this beatdown. We have Zoro versus Mihawk. Now, this happened in Baratier, And this was the first beatdown we see in all of One Piece. It is not just the first beatdown we see in all of One Piece, but it is, when I think of beatdowns in fiction, I think of this, and I think of Itachi showing up in the Leaf Village and doing what he does to Kakashi. Those are the two ones that immediately spring to mind. It was the first one I wrote down for this list. The reason why it's not higher is because, in terms of ranking these, I'm going off the disrespect that the person doing the beatdown gives, and Mihawk definitely delivers some disrespect to Zoro, but also the severity and weight of the beatdown. At the end of the day, this wasn't too impactful in terms of, it wasn't like the Straw Hats were trying to, rescue a country like they often do, and Mihawk got in the way and stopped them. This was mainly, and not just mainly, it was only a fight for Zoro's goal and his pride. I'm not disputing the importance of that, but compared to some of the things further up on this list, it's the reason why it's gotten an 8th place. But what happens in this scene? We see that Mihawk takes out a pocket knife in response to Zoro drawing his 3 swords. Yes, you heard me, a pocket knife. He uses this pocket knife to defend against Zoro's 3 sword style. He blocks all of his attacks with effortless ease, like he's a adult fighting a child, a baby even. There is nothing that Zoro can do that can truly contend with Mihawk here. Even at the end of this, after Mihawk completely disrespects him and bullies him with this pocket knife, he only draws his black blade out of respect for Zoro's tenacity and his willpower. Not because he was forced into any situation, but he uses his black blade to cut Zoro down when he uses his 3000 Worlds technique. And then we get this great moment where Zoro lifts his arms up and Mihawk looks at him in shock, like, why are you allowing me to cut you down like this? And Zoro responds with, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. And then we see Mihawk truly, respect Zoro's conviction. We can tell that Mihawk probably believes in the same concept here. And he gladly cuts Zoro down. Zoro's body goes flying into the ocean. We get a great moment from Zoro where he has his speech to Luffy about never losing to a swordsman again. It is a great scene, but the beatdown that Mihawk gives Zoro is well and truly one to behold and a fitting member for this list. Now, let's pause and go over some information as well. This list, I wrote down 25 beatdown scenarios. It was very difficult picking just the top 10. I'll include a couple of honorable mentions in this video, later on in this video. But if you guys are wanting a part 2 of this, let me know down in the comments. And those ones that didn't make the list, I'll do another list with those ones in it. So if you guys haven't seen your favorite beatdown moments, fear not, they will probably come in the second video if that's something you guys want me to do. But in 7th place, we don't have a one-on-one fight. We don't have a 1v10 fight or a 1v100 fight. No, ladies and gentlemen, we have Luffy taking down 50,000 people in Fishman Island with his Conqueror's Haki. There's no notes on this other than the sheer scope of what a badass play this was by Luffy. Zoro and Sanji bickering amongst themselves about, how many am I going to take down? I'm going to take down more than you, Mossad. No, I'll take down more than you, Curly Brows. And they're going back and forth with each other, arguing like children. Luffy, in a rare show of maturity, walks past them, kind of knocks them away by the chest, and he's walking up to the army. The army charges at him. They're getting close. They're salivating over getting Luffy's massive bounty without realizing what is about to happen to them all. And Luffy just looks up and Conqueror's Haki spreads throughout Fishman Island and completely knocks out 50,000 people. To date, it is the biggest and most impressive display of Conqueror's Haki when it comes to knocking people out. Of course, we get some really cool scenes, Whitebeard and Roger, Luffy and Kaido, where they split the heavens, etc., etc. But in terms of just the aspect of knocking people out, that is still, to date, the greatest scene we've seen with Conqueror's Haki. But in 6th place, we have... I had to look at my list there, I completely blanked. We have Magellan in Impel Down taking out the Blackbeard pirate crew. Oh, what can I say about this? This was a shocker to see. In this Impel Down arc, we learn... I don't think Oda ever plays up a character's strength as much as he does Magellan in Impel Down. The whole arc is everyone saying, yeah, you don't fight this guy. Like, we're going to try and escape, but you don't fight Magellan. You leave him alone. Like, don't even look at him. And he's played up, he's hyped up to this colossal amounts of just hype. And we see Blackbeard and his original crew members just nonchalantly walking up to him. And we're thinking like, oh, you know, we're going to get a pretty cool fight here. Blackbeard's pretty strong. He just became a warlord. We're dealing with a warlord level opponent here. And Blackbeard's talking shit to him. And Magellan doesn't even stop to give him any attention. He goes Hydra. Hydra comes out. Boom. Takes out all of the Blackbeard pirate crew. Now, at this stage, they didn't have the level 6 inmates. But it is still a colossal... I keep saying colossal. Why am I using that descriptive word today? It was still such a big and prevalent beatdown to see a warlord level opponent, to see someone who's going to become an emperor get completely wiped out in one move by Magellan. Like, he's not even an admiral. He's a warden of a prison, and he just completely eviscerates Blackbeard and his crew. If it wasn't for Shiryu giving them the antidote, that would have been over. The whole story of One Piece would have changed. Blackbeard owes everything to Shiryu for giving him that antidote. Otherwise, all his scheming, all his planning would have ended right there. But in 6th spot, Jack, you're a goddamn idiot. We just did the 6th spot. Rewind. In 5th spot, we have quite possibly the textbook example of a beatdown. 5th spot, Luffy versus Bellamy. Oh, this scene was probably the most therapeutic out of all of them that we've gotten up to so far. And I'm just checking the list. Probably actually the most therapeutic on this entire list. We have Bellamy tormenting Luffy this whole Jaya arc, where he makes fun of him, makes fun of his dreams, spills booze on him, beats him down, talks shit, and us as the audience, we're there like, you know, we're gritting our teeth, we're clenching our fists, because we know where Luffy's coming from. He was taught a valuable lesson from Shanks to not be provoked in a manner like this against people who aren't worth it. They can criticize Luffy's dreams all he wants. Luffy has faith in himself, believes in himself, and isn't going to let other people's words dictate how he's going to respond, especially when it's said from such an ignorant person like Bellamy. And Luffy does. Like, Luffy knows that Bellamy is ignorant here. In fact, Luffy is... He shows so much higher levels of maturity than Bellamy does in this bar scene where Bellamy beats him up. It's like a adult and a child here, the differences of where they're at mentally, which is great to see, because Luffy's always played up to be, you know, the dumb character, the carefree character, which is what he is, but it's great seeing these moments of maturity for him. But Luffy will not react in anger against someone belittling him or his dreams. What he will react in anger to is someone hurting his friends, his nakama. So when Bellamy goes and steals Cricket's gold and beats him down and the Monkey Alliance, Luffy runs back down to Jaya. And there we see such a great moment. He challenges Bellamy, and before this we've had this dude in the background tell Bellamy that, you know, Luffy's bounty is actually 100 million. It's not 30 million. You've just provoked someone much stronger than you, and no one's believing him. They're like, people fake wanted posters. No one's believing what this guy is telling them. And Bellamy confronts Luffy once he gets into town. He uses his spring fruit powers to hop around the whole town, destroying everything that he's hopping on. He's talking shit to Luffy. You know, the days where pirates dream about things like the One Piece and Sky Islands is over. All that matters to be a pirate now is the pursuit of gold and treasure. And we see Luffy finally have enough of him. And as Bellamy goes in close to get a punch, Luffy, with one hand, with one fist, boom! Completely smacks Bellamy down into the ground. He leaves his fist indentations on Bellamy's face. Bellamy is completely out of it. He's not even twitching. Everyone in the crowd is looking on in shock and disbelief that someone like Bellamy, a man with a 55 million berry bounty, just got one-shotted by our lovable MC. It was so rewarding to see. And this brings me into the second honorable mention I want to include for this video. And it is Luffy punching out Sharlos at Sabaody. Now, I haven't included this scene, as great as it was, as memorable as it was. I'm not counting it because Sharlos wasn't a combatant, but I still wanted to include it as an honorable mention because as far as beatdowns go, Luffy gives him one for the ages. But in fourth place, I mentioned it in the beginning of the list, so you guys might be shocked by this. I would be a little bit surprised if anyone really remembers this fight. But we have in fourth place Eneroo versus Kamakiri of the Shandorians. Now, this fight happened in Skypiea. Before they get into the upper levels, Kamakiri encounters Eneroo. And Eneroo provokes Kamakiri in saying all their suffering, everything that's happening on Upper Yard is just a game for Eneroo's entertainment. And Kamakiri will not hear a word of it, and he challenges and fights Eneroo. Eneroo shows the biggest level of disrespect. This entry, number 4, out of everything on this list, this is the most disrespectful beatdown in the entire show. It might be the most disrespectful beatdown in anime, because Eneroo says to him, "You know what? I applaud your courage for getting this far. I will give you 5 minutes to attack me. For those 5 minutes, I am just going to sit here and not move a muscle. I won't fight back, and you can do whatever you want to me." And Kamakiri's shocked at the declaration of Eneroo, but he's not going to let a gift horse like this pass up, so he attacks Eneroo. And we don't even see the 5 minutes of him attacking, because there's a time skip to 5 minutes later where we see Kamakiri spear Eneroo through the head. And as we do, the spear goes through Eneroo's low-gear lightning head, gets stuck there. Kamakiri's getting electric shocks, and the utter despair on Kamakiri's face as he looks up to Eneroo and says, "I can't," and he's like bleeding and everything, "I can't defeat you, can I?" And for such a proud warrior like Kamakiri to see just how outclassed he was and see absolutely no hope in victory was heartbreaking in a way that we don't really see for such a side character, because that's what Kamakiri is. He's a side character. Even Wiper, the main Shandorian character that we encounter, doesn't get that much screen time. So Kamakiri, his right-hand man, getting such a powerful scene like this, I thought was really cool on Oda's part. But Eneroo has this badass monologue where he's like, "No, you can't defeat me. From the beginning of time, men have always looked upon the natural disasters of the world and worshipped them as gods. I am one of those natural disasters. That's why I'm God." And Kamakiri sees this. He despairs more. He burn blades Eneroo in half. He goes to escape. He's not faster than lightning, though. Eneroo immediately teleports in front of him, uses his electric powers. Boom! Electric shock to Kamakiri. Not only does it take Kamakiri out instantly, but it travels up the Milky Road and takes down 20 other people who are fighting in the upper yard. He just takes these people out effortlessly without even meaning to do it. So from the disrespect of... Because I should mention, sorry, as well, the biggest disrespect moment in all of this was that he fell asleep while Kamakiri was attacking him. Imagine being so powerful and so sure of yourself that you fall asleep when another person is attacking you. It was a crazy, crazy moment and deserves the 4th spot on this list. In 3rd place, we have Luffy versus Kaido. This is the newest, most recent scene in One Piece that's on this list. And I should be more specific, it was Luffy and Kaido's first fight. Kaido appears from the heavens in his dragon form. He uses a borrow breath to destroy the mountain that Luffy and his Nakama were currently on before that. Luffy sees this. He's enraged. He charges at Kaido. He goes gear forth. He beats Kaido down, punch after punch. Kaido doesn't know what's just hit him. There's this rubber miniature man who's just attacking him. He just came here for a good time to destroy some mountains. He's drunk as this is happening. Luffy beats him down. Kaido eventually falls back to Earth. He transforms back into his human form. But that isn't the beatdown we're talking about. The beatdown we're talking about is when Luffy encounters Kaido in his human form. He charges at Kaido. Kaido is sobered up from all the times Luffy had just smacked him around. Grabs his Kanabo out. Summons lightning down from the heavens. Thunder Bagua charges at Luffy. Hits him with the Kanabo like a lariat all over Luffy's upper body. And he swings Luffy into the goddamn hemisphere. Luffy goes colliding into a mountain. Boom! Bounces off. Ends up falling, bouncing, and reverberating back to where Kaido is standing. He was like a pinball. And Kaido is just looking at him and looking at his unconscious form and has this line of, you are going to be the king of what now? And it is just a great... It's like the Shanks and Kid scene. There's not much story behind it because this wasn't their most important fight. Their most important fights are what's happening in Onigashima. But from a sheer one-move beatdown, it does not get better than how Kaido took out Luffy in Wano. But in 2nd place, we have one of my all-time favorite fights. We have Luffy versus Crocodile, their first fight in Alabama. Now, this scene has a lot of emotion for me behind it because the Alabasta arc is probably still my top 3 favorite arcs of all time in One Piece. So I hold a lot of love for it. And this fight with Crocodile is the first time Luffy gets utterly defeated. Of course, with Smoker in Logtown, he couldn't do anything to Smoker. He had no way of fighting back, but he didn't get defeated. He gets impaled in this fight against Crocodile. And it was such a perfect clash of styles because we saw Luffy trying to fight back. We saw him trying to be spontaneous in the fight with, the gum munch where he tries to eat Crocodile, to the finger net move where he tries to capture him. He's thinking on the fly and doing everything he can to beat Crocodile. But Crocodile is having none of it. He shows his power to split the desert in half, to create ant lions, to create sandstorms. He creates a sandstorm that he provokes Luffy into saying that, this is going to go and hit Yuba, where the old man that Luffy's come to care for is busy digging the sand out of the town day by day. And Crocodile, for fun, just sends sandstorms at him constantly. Luffy, enraged, goes up and grabs Crocodile and is screaming at him, "Why are you doing this? What do you want? Don't do that to the old man. And Crocodile just has enough of it. Grabs his golden hook, boom, impales Luffy, and throws him into the antlion desert trap that he just made. It's very memorable for being the first loss, in my opinion, that Luffy had. Well, not my opinion, a fact, essentially. The first loss that Luffy had ever had in the series. The most severe loss that he had for a good period of time. And just the story and the world building of it all, the beautiful shots of it where this fight is happening in the desert. We see the sand blistering about. We see the true extent of Crocodile's power. We see the true extent of what a warlord can do. It was just a great, great scene that I might have some preconceptions to liking more than other people because of how much I hold that arc in regard. But hey, this is my list and I'm putting it in second place. In first place, though, before we get into it, let's get into the two other honorable mentions. We mentioned Smoker versus Luffy. We mentioned Luffy punching out Sharlos. We're going to include Law versus Smoker from Punk Hazard. That was a great appearance from Law and how he just effortlessly took down Smoker. And we have Whitebeard attacking Akainu after Ace's death. That was, Daddy was enraged and Akainu really felt the effects of it. That was such a great fight there. Let me know if any of those honorable mentions you think should have made this list. In first place, though, it was never in any outcome it was never any dispute in my mind. It's not a 1v1 fight. It's not a 2v2 fight. It's not Luffy versus 50,000 people. But it is the extermination of the Straw Hat Pirates at Sabaody Archipelago. This was always number one on my list and nothing was going to change it. We have Luffy and his crew take down a pacifista after punching out a world noble. This was the first time they had encountered a pacifista, and it took the crew's whole might just to beat one of these things. After the fight, they were exhausted to the point of not really being in any state to fight again. But what happens? Another pacifista shows up with an axe-slaying man, Sentomaru. Those are the two that show up first. We see that Sentomaru is not a force, is a force to be reckoned with. We see that he's one of the first users of Haki that we see in the series, where he's punching Luffy around and really hurting him. We see the pacifista attacking the other Straw Hat members. And as this is going on, as we think that, this can't get any worse, who appears but none other than Kizaru. And I love Kizaru's introduction here because as an audience, we just saw him taking down 4 supernovas. 4 people over 100 million, effortlessly like that. Come on, Jack, you can click better than that. Effortlessly like that. There we go. And he shows up at the Straw Hats where they currently are, and he appears in front of a downed Zoro. He does like a finger laser beam, takes Zoro down. Brook and Usopp are looking at him in shock, and we have this great moment where Robin, Sentomaru, says, "It took you long enough, Uncle Kizaru." And Robin just looks over, horrified, and she says to the crew, specifically Usopp and Brook, "Be careful, guys, that's a Navy Admiral." And the sheer despair on everyone's face of, we saw what happened with Aokiji before this. We're weaker than we were with Aokiji because we've been beaten down by the first pacifista. We're in no state to beat this man. Robin tries to get Zoro out with her Hana powers. Kizaru immediately just appears, light speed movement, kicks Zoro, goes to kill him. But who should come up to save them? Silver's Rayleigh. He kicks Kizaru's leg. The massive energy blast goes and destroys one of the big trees on Sabaody. And Kizaru faces down, the Dark King Rayleigh. And this is where we get probably the best moment in this entire scene, because after Rayleigh shows up, Luffy kind of breathes a little bit of a sigh of relief, and for the first time, we hear him say, "Everyone, retreat now. Run away. We cannot beat these guys. Even if we were at full health, beating these people are just way above our current ability, and we need to escape." And you hear Kizaru mentioning, "Ah, damn, he knows when he's beaten. How bothersome." And because Luffy has this never say die attitude of taking on any obstacle that comes towards him. Like, he battled Aokiji, even knowing that he probably wasn't going to be able to beat him. But he's at this moment here where, no, like, this isn't a matter of trying to prove our worth or trying to progress in the Grand Line. This is, my crew is going to die here. They need to escape. And the whole crew, you can really see their disbelief, I guess you could say, of Luffy's words, the fact that it's coming from him. But then they're not going to think twice on it. They follow their captain's orders and try to escape. But who does appear but Bartholomew Kuma, the real one? He was on the list of people I wrote down. Him on Thriller Bark, I put down in one of the top 25 beatdowns, just in case you guys wanted to get that second list. But he shows up, and the dread becomes worse. He takes off his glove, and he makes Zoro vanish. And the crew... Oh, I'm trying not to cough, guys. I'm still so sick. But we're at the closing stretch here. He makes Zoro disappear, and Luffy is in disbelief because he's just lost one of his nakama. He doesn't want to lose more. He tells them, "We'll think about how to get Zoro back later. You guys just need to flee." But with Kuma being able to teleport, essentially at light speed, having a one-shot move where he just needs to touch someone, the Straw Hats weren't going to stand a chance. Kuma goes, boom. Frankie, Usopp, Brook, Nami, everyone is being completely erased. Chopper. And Luffy doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know that Kuma is actually helping them here. In Luffy's mind, he's just seeing his crew, his beloved nakama, disappear before his sight. And we see this great moment where Luffy's had enough. He punches the ground, gear second, and he charges at Kuma. The earth behind Luffy completely tears apart as Luffy is hurtling towards Kuma. Probably the fastest we've ever seen Luffy move at this time. He punches Kuma. Kuma just simply reflects it and repels him away. He then goes on to continue to get rid of the rest of the Straw Hats until finally just Luffy is left. And we see, I reckon, probably the second most heart-wrenching moment in Luffy's character arc, where he is in tears. He is crying, he is bashing his head against the ground, because in his mind, his journey's over. His journey is just over right then, and he's probably blaming himself, because he's the one that punched out the World Noble. He's the one that brought these people here. And to see Luffy's just sheer despair at everything that's going on around him is heartbreaking, where he looks up at Kuma in tears, and Kuma's like, "We will never see each other again," and Luffy can do nothing but just scowl at him, and Kuma sends Luffy away as well. It is probably Luffy's second most heart-wrenching moment next to Marineford, where he has hit his limit. He has pushed himself well beyond physical possibilities. And then Ace's death is just... He doesn't even have the energy or the will to fight in him. He doesn't go and attack Akainu in rage. His mind literally just turns itself off in the sheer trauma of it all. Those are probably the two biggest, most emotional Luffy moments in the series. But guys, that is the top 10 of the biggest beatdowns in One Piece. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the list. How would you rearrange this list? How would you make your own list? Do you think the Sabaody beatdown is the best beatdown in One Piece? For me, it's certainly the most compelling. But everyone, have a lovely night. My God, I completely just butchered what I was about to say. Like, share, and subscribe. All the good stuff that you guys know how to do. I'll see you guys in the next video. Ta-da.